What do you do if your brand is difficult to talk about? For many of you, that difficulty is because your product or service is complex. For some, like today's guest, it's because the service deals with a sensitive subject. Our guest on this episode, Kristin Lowrey, founded a nonprofit called Access Period. Despite what you might think from the name, Access Period does not provide punctuation marks to underserved populations. Rather, it's the other kind of period. Access Period gives free period products to people who need them. Kristin will share with us how she launched a brand that tackles an uncomfortable subject and has grown Access Period in just 1 year to give away over 250,000 products to those who need them. This episode isn't political, and it's definitely not just for women. Everyone who has ever struggled with her messaging will benefit from Kristin's savvy storytelling and outright commitment to being clear about solving a problem. Believe it or not, there's no content warning necessary for this episode, unless talking broadly about the existence of periods is not a conversation you want to have in the minivan today. Welcome to Growing a Fruitful Brand, where we discuss how to create and grow a brand that makes the world a better place for you, your customers, and your employees. I'm Raj Lula, Principal Brand Strategist at Fruitful Design and Strategy. In this episode, I'm fortunate to interview Kristin Lowrey about how to launch a brand that is difficult to communicate. Kristin, thanks for joining us on Growing a Fruitful Brand.
Thanks for having me.
So you lead Access Period, and let's just start there. What is Access Period?
Well, Access Period is an organization. We're headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska, and we provide free period products for anyone that needs them throughout the state.
Awesome. And how did you decide on that, on period products?
Well, this is really something I've been thinking about for a long time. I think everybody has a problem that they can't stop thinking about, something that they experience or hear about, and it just really affects them. And so for me, period poverty and lack of access to basic needs in general was that. And then I had the opportunity, I still am, on the board of directors for an organization called Partnership for Hope. And we serve young adult, former foster youth. And one of the services that we offer is a free store called Youth Mart. And, being there and mentoring and working with that population, I just saw how, dire the access or lack of access to basic needs in that population and in many others is.
Yeah. So it almost seems like, this is where we got the name, right? It was just access, and then you focus on period products, so Access Period. And some friends helped you come up with that, correct?
Yes. I came up with a bunch of names. Some of them were really, really bad. And just, threw them at, as many smart people as I could. And luckily that's how we met, was through me trying to come up with this name. So.
Yeah. And that's actually a fun story. We met through a Facebook group, both being in Omaha, but this is a nationwide marketing group that we met in, and you talked about trying to brand a problem like this. And I imagine that everybody listening can understand why this would be a challenge. What challenges were you anticipating in, so yes, coming up with a name, but your friends helped you come up with a good name. There's a lot of times where we'll get brands in where it's like, are you sure you want to do that? But, Access Period, so clear. And there's also kind of a statement to it. I remember that being something really attractive about it at the beginning, where it was like Access Period, that there's no qualification on that. And that's really great. But what challenges did you anticipate with, learning how to talk about it, what it was going to look like, all of those things?
Well, the first couple, I had been thinking about doing this for a while and kind of had this idea, and I finally got brave enough to tell a couple people about it and kind of what I thought it would look like. And the first two people I told were like, ooh, I do not understand that, and I don't think that's a good idea, and I don't think you should do that. They said it nicely, but that's basically what they said. And so I thought, well, I know that this is important. I'm just not talking about it right. I'm not presenting this in the right way. To make people see it and care about it. And so I knew I needed some help, and I knew I needed to practice and really figure out the right way to present this in a realistic way. It's something people are not used to talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious do you remember what are some of the ways that you used to talk about it that weren't eloquent?
Oh man. Well, we used to say feminine hygiene.
Okay.
That was, we were going to provide feminine hygiene products.
Mhm.
And, that really kind of first of all, makes it just a women's issue. And
Mhm.
it's feminine and it's soft.
Mhm.
And also hygiene, that kind of, is dirty,
Yeah,
right?
yep,
Like,
yep.
so by saying, menstrual products
Uh-huh.
or period supplies
Mhm.
instead of feminine hygiene products, that really kind of shifts it from, you know, something negative to something positive and something that's
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. So then you reached out to it was this Facebook group for marketers, and you expressed this problem of how do I talk about this? And we happen to both be in Omaha, and for me, being married and then having daughters, I had kind of experienced a transformation on this issue where the first time you have to go to the store
Mhm.
as a husband for period products and that weird walk down the aisle and kind of all that stuff. And I remember I think it was literally the first time I had to do that where I just thought, why is this weird?
Mhm.
Like it's a product that they sell at the store. The person in my life needs it. Why is this awkward?
Yeah.
And so I just sort of trained myself out of it of because I think part of my thing was I felt like I didn't even belong in the aisle. That if there
Mhm.
was a woman in the aisle who was shopping for herself, that I like had to take a back seat to. It's like, okay, I'll let you have your time, and then it's like, I'll wait, and just very awkward and weird. But then just realizing that my need to be in that aisle was just as important as anybody else's need. Somehow that like making that calculation helped me get over that. And so then when you reached out I was like, oh, I've actually experienced this transformation. I
Yeah.
would love to help figure out how to talk about it in a way that isn't weird.
Mhm.
And I think that you making that transition from, what's wrong with the words that we're using.
Mhm.
That one is maybe a little too narrow, and the other emphasizes a part about this issue that we don't want to emphasize, and so getting to clearer language. Yeah, that's amazing, and that's really hard work, and good on you for pursuing that.
Thank you.
How many products has Access Period distributed so far?
So far, we've distributed 250,000 products.
And that's in just over a year, right?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
How many people does that help?
So far we have served about 3,500 people,
Mhm.
and we make 3-month kits.
Mhm.
So that's over 6,000 periods. And we also like to measure worry-free days. So
Mm.
these are days when people can just go to work and go to school and not have to worry about if they're going to be held back or if they're going to be comfortable, able to concentrate. And so we've provided 33,000 worry-free days for Nebraskans.
That's such a great way of framing what Access Period actually does.
Mm.
Because I think when we get kinda hung up in the kind of biology of this problem, that does make people a little uncomfortable no matter how much we try to do the work out of it. But, let's talk about this a little more because I wanna really expose this problem.
Mhm.
So when you talk about the opposite of that, worried days, what is that? There are probably people listening who don't know, like, how does this interrupt someone's life?
Yeah. So when people don't have access to menstrual products, they just have to make some really tough choices. And those choices could be staying home from work or school. And we are just beginning to kind of collect data on the experiences of the people we serve. But so far, about half of the people that we've given products to have missed work or school because of lack of access to
Wow.
period products. And so this is keeping kids, out of school.
Yeah.
And in Omaha, the second biggest reason why kids miss school is because of lack of access to clean clothing.
Mm,
Um, and if you don't have period products, you do not have clean clothing.
wow.
So I feel that we're really doing something there. Other tough choices people need to make, they will wear products for longer than intended, which is a really dangerous choice. And the most common thing we see is people using other products that aren't intended for periods. We just got a note the other day from someone that said that she had been using newborn diapers because they were so much easier to access than pads. People use socks. We've heard of people using cardboard. It just is, I can't imagine, a whole day of trying to concentrate in class. With that type of worry and that type of, just very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that's a place where I could kind of connect with this problem because in my nonprofit work that I did for 10 years before joining Fruitful, I was more aware of this problem in Africa and in Asia, where girls would stop being schooled around the time of puberty because they once they had to start missing days because of lack of access to period products, they it just became untenable for them to continue in school and be missing that many days every month. So I was aware of that happening in the developing world, but you're saying this still happens in our state in 2023.
Yes, absolutely. And especially, in rural areas or even really urban areas, but that are food deserts. If you live in an area like that and you don't have access to really like a big box store, menstrual products are really expensive. If you have to get them at a gas station, very, very expensive, and not a lot of variety there either.
Wow. That is like mind altering, it creates a shift in your brain to realize how similar we are to places that we think of as not having access to clean water and food and all of those things, but happening in our state, even in our city. It really does make you want to do something about that problem. It seems so easy to fix because it's like literally all I have to do is just go to the store and buy more than I need and give them to you.
Yes.
That's all that's required here. It's kind of incredible. I do know there's some other challenges to distributing and all those things, and I'd love to get to that towards the end of the episode today to see how we can partner with you and help. But before we do that, I would love to just talk about, this is growing a fruitful brand, and branding an issue like this is difficult. We already talked about some of those ways that it's difficult to talk about this. But what do you think has made Access Period so successful?
Well, I think that what we did together early on, I think we were in this room.
Yeah.
And we all kind of looked at each other and thought, okay, how will we talk about this? And, I had some ideas, and we all thought, well, this is going to be really, really hard. I did. I don't know if you thought. Felt that
I thought
way.
it was going to be a challenge for sure. I'm even thinking as we're talking through this, I was like, I don't know how many times I can say period in an episode and have people still listen.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And so just being able to really, thoughtfully put together what our message was and be able to use the right verbiage. I never would have been able to do that without you. And that has made a big difference in just being able to talk about it. Now, you think about those two people that I told at the beginning that were like, I do not understand what you're saying right now. And now anybody that I tell about it, I think, at least they act like they really care deeply about it. And either they have experienced period poverty and experienced lack of access to other basic needs, or it just totally blows their mind because they thought, I've never thought about this ever in my life.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the work that we did together. What were kind of some of the pieces that helped give an identity to Access Period that you needed to launch?
So the Storybrand was the first thing that we did, and that brand script just made me feel confident enough to be able to talk about this. I remember really, really early on, too early, someone asked me to do a Facebook Live episode with them, or Instagram Live, excuse me. And I was so scared, but I said yes anyway. This whole thing has just been saying yes without knowing how we're going to do it or how it's going to go. And so we had, I don't know if the brand script was even complete, but kind of what we had. I wrote it on a whiteboard and I put it behind the camera. And it really, really helped because, then when I kind of started to veer and started to, as you're talking, you kind of think in your head, I don't know what I'm going to say next. I don't know where this is going. I could go back to that brand script and make it all make sense.
That's so great. So we did the brand script, and I remember that session. It was in this room. We had just moved into this office, and so we had a folding table, and I think it was folding chairs in this room still. And it's changed a little bit in the time that we've been here, but so yeah, we were real scrappy at that point. I remember us even having conversations around, how do we talk about the audience? Because as gender norms have changed in our country. I'll admit I was the one who suggested that we kind of just ignore that issue at first because, how do you talk about periods or menstrual products without using the word women? And so at first we decided to just go that direction and kind of fly in the face of the issue and say, hey, that's not what this organization is really focused on. It's just focused on periods. But what did you find pretty quickly that shifted in that?
Yeah, people don't care. I mean, I think there's been like 2 people on the internet that have been like, hey, don't you mean women? When I say like people who menstruate or, and I don't even really say that a lot. The people that we serve are, our neighbors, they're students, they are just people. And I think that, with everyone learning so much about how to be inclusive. The thing that I've learned about this particular audience that we serve is, we know that not all people who menstruate are women. And we also know that not all women menstruate. And so I think that by saying, we help all women and girls, there are so many out there that, maybe are of the right age to have periods and they don't.
Right.
And so I think that, by both narrowing our audience to people who menstruate and widening it to people has both been really successful.
Yeah. And the other issue there, or the other, thing that's been really helpful is just people who need period products.
Yes.
Like if you understand what a period product is, the other part of it doesn't actually really matter anymore because it's like the only people who need period products are people who are having a period. And so then great. We don't have to worry about any of the rest of that conversation if you just understand what the need is. So that's very helpful. And so I know you've talked about how clear messaging was a big part of getting that getting Access Period launched. But also though, then you still kind of have the problem of when you start talking about this really clearly, it can still be a little bit of a thorny issue that people don't necessarily want to get close to. So what in the branding process or in the launching process, help make that accessible to people?
I think that working with Bree, she really made our brand so friendly and really just something that was so approachable to anyone. Some organizations that focus on this will use, kind of more shocking imagery or, blood and things like that, which I really very much appreciate because it normalizes, all of this, which is so normal. But for us, being where we are, being the kind of the first in our city to do something like this on this scale, it needed to be really, really I keep saying approachable, but that's what we needed for anyone and for any business and for any, politician, any religious group to be able to say, oh, that's something that we care about. We care about dignity for all.
Yeah. And if you're watching, then we'll throw up the Access Period website on here, accessperiod.com. If you're just listening, you can check it out yourself. But Bree did an incredible job with this. When you brought the brand or the idea to us originally, I remember there was one piece of paper and it had the word access and period on it, and there was a dark red dot on there, and I did kind of have that reaction at first, like, "Ooh, that's a little shocking,"
Yeah.
and because it looked like blood, like a drop of
Mm-hmm.
blood. And Brie chose such a wonderful color palette that is, it's in the red family. There's some pinks and a little purple and kind of an orange
Mm-hmm.
that are there. Really, hopefully you're able to look at those right now because she also did some really brilliant things with the actual products themselves in the imagery. Making some of them look like flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite one by far is she did this, play on the Ensoulment by, oh my gosh, Michelangelo. It almost left my brain. From the Sistine Chapel, where the one hand is handing the other hand a tampon, and
Uh-huh.
um, and that's brilliant in a number of ways. It appeals to classical art, which is great. It's a little bit funny, but it also encapsulates this moment that apparently I wasn't aware of
Mm-hmm.
how pervasive this was, but that pretty much every woman has, or every person who menstruates
Mm-hmm.
has, where there's sort of this like in a public bathroom needing a product that you don't have, and the awkward ask or the knock on the the wall saying, "Hey, do you have a product?" And the kind of handoff of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bree's, uh, capturing an imagery of this, capturing the spirit of it without it literally being like a hand under a stall door, which is a little, weird.
Yeah.
But instead appealing to classic art, making it a little funny, but also capturing a real moment that a lot of people can identify with.
Mm-hmm.
I was amazed, the stories that I was hearing in this room when we first talked about it, of people that I knew
Mm-hmm.
and had done a lot of life with. My wife was in that room. Some of our designers were here, and sharing stories that I'd never
Mm-hmm.
heard about this problem. And it seemed like everyone who has a period has had this experience at some point. So yeah, it is a very approachable brand. I have the T-shirt. I've worn the T-shirt. My kids steal it from me all the time because
Well,
they
we just
love they
ordered
love the
more,
pink.
so
So
you
yeah.
let me know.
um, and that's actually a great thing too. It seems like you've had some success bringing men into this brand, and I feel like every time I see, there was one selfie in particular of a guy in a gym
Mm-hmm.
wearing the Access Period T-shirt. Can you talk about that partnership a little bit? Like how has that kind of grown up, or how have you kind of found this message resonating with people who haven't experienced this problem for themselves?
Yeah, well, that was so. What Raj is talking about is on our Instagram. I think Fit Gym here in Omaha did a drive for us, and we just were able to create some really cool photos with these really, fit, muscular guys holding period products and talking about, how they're, you know, uh, oh gosh, what were some of the things we thought about? Like pulling their own weight
Oh
to, and
yeah,
silly things.
yeah,
But it really is just, I think, something that people aren't used to seeing. So it kind
yeah.
of grabs their attention. But also, um, what I learned from you is positioning our audience as the hero
Hmm.
and as ourselves as just the guide.
Yeah.
And so everyone, every single person,
Hmm.
men and women and everyone
Hmm.
want to be the hero.
Yeah.
And so our message doesn't exclude men from helping with this problem.
Yeah. If anything, I think it invites them in.
Mhm.
I just the other day saw a video of it was an Indian family, and Indian families are typically very patriarchal,
Mhm.
and so it was kind of interesting to see this, where the dad had taught the sons that that it was their job. That when mom had her time of the month, that it was their job to go down to the market, and they even were supposed to like bring her tea and all
Oh,
sorts of things,
that's
and
lovely.
and they continue it, to this day. It's, I imagine at least 20 years, judging by the age of the guys in the video. And it was funny just to see that shift because um, it seems so right in a lot of ways
Yeah.
that anytime anybody in our family is, ill in any way, which is, I know, having a
Mhm.
period's not an illness, but, has any sort of discomfort, we always tend to that.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, this one issue we allowed to become very taboo.
Yes.
And it doesn't make sense with the rest of human behavior. If somebody's hungry, we feed them.
Mhm.
If even in my house, if somebody needs toilet paper, there's a like knock on the wall. It's like, hey, can you
Yeah.
throw me a roll? You know, and
Yes.
but it's like, but this one particular issue we allowed to become taboo.
Mhm.
And you started a conversation that was like, actually, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And I think a whole lot of guys were just kind of waiting for permission to go, yeah, you know what? This fits with who I see myself as
Yeah.
somebody who cares for other people. And that feels very natural. And it opened up the door for that.
Mhm.
It's so great. You know, something else that I know has been a challenge for other people in the women's health space
Mhm.
is that these issues can become easily political.
Mhm.
What do you think has helped access periods stay out of, becoming a political football in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, it really, really has. If you just, Google free period products in schools right now, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so to be able to stay out of that and just, stay in people's hearts and minds, I guess, we just continue the message of, this is for everyone.
Mm,
And, this helps people stay at school, stay in work, or stay at work and in school. And that has just really, having that singular focus has been really helpful.
yeah. I love that. And that's something we haven't talked a lot about so far. When you talk about this being for everyone,
Mm.
what kinds of things do we miss out on in society, in the workforce, in schools when people who menstruate are adversely affected by this problem?
Yeah. Well, so now I'm going to talk about women.
Yeah.
When women succeed, families succeed.
Mm,
And when mom can, do what she needs to do to be able to take care of the family,
mhm.
then there's a safe and happy and, successful family. So that is really kind of where this problem lies
Yeah.
in the home and in the family.
Yeah. And worldwide, this is true.
Yes.
We know that in developing nations, when you make microloans to women,
Mhm.
those societies advance faster than if you focus only on the men.
Yes.
And so, even though, as again, some of those cultures would be a bit more patriarchal and would, say, hey, well, we need to give work to the men first.
Mhm.
But it turns out that women in those countries starting businesses, they spend more money on their home, less on alcohol, less on those types of things.
Mhm.
And it actually benefits more people if you loan to women in those countries than to anyone else. So that rings true here. And I think also, just thinking about, I taught for a little while,
Mhm.
and if there were a day where all of the girls in my class were gone, and it was just the boys, I taught high school. It's like,
Uh-huh.
I shudder to even think about it. And so yeah, just thinking about that, and I think part of the reason we don't think about it is because it happens one at a time.
Yes.
But if we really pictured our classrooms, our hospitals, our law firms, our workplaces of all kinds,
Mhm.
without the women, the people who menstruate being there, then what are we missing out on? We're missing out on potentially the cure to cancer, potentially the next big tech breakthrough, all those things. If half of the population is excluded for
Mhm.
a week a month,
Yeah.
that's dangerous for all of us. It's bad for all of us. So yeah, I think that it's great positioning of this problem, that it's not just the problem of the person who is currently experiencing period. It's
Mhm.
it's a problem for all of us if we're denying ourselves
Yeah.
access to that person. So in thinking through that, you've been able to partner with a number of amazing organizations. We'd love to just thank them out loud, but also acknowledge them. I know that you just got done doing a drive with, it was Hightower Ref, correct?
Yes.
Right. And what are some other organizations that you've been able to partner with?
Yeah. So, well, we love lady lawyers. So last summer we also did one with McGill Law. And that has just been been so awesome in Omaha. Schwab here has been
Yeah.
super generous. And we are just starting a relationship with Farm Credit Services of America. Healthy Blue in Nebraska has been absolutely incredible too. They've been our biggest partner and have allowed us to expand statewide.
Wow.
So there's a lot of really great companies and a lot of really wonderful people on board
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah. And that's just a few of the
Mhm.
organizations. I know it would take a very long time
Yes.
to list all of them. And, one partnership that was fun that we thankfully got to play a part in was that we started working with Children's Hospital. And when they had just seen our work that we'd done for you, there was kind of this moment, what is this? And it's like, well, access period products, people who need them.
Yeah, we were able to do a couple packing parties with them as well.
Great.
One of the ways that we really spread the word is through packaging all of our products with groups.
Yeah.
And so, that's really helpful,
Mhm.
but also an hour or two of talking about it,
Yeah.
talking about this problem. And,
Yeah. And I think that's incredibly destigmatizing for this issue because until we did our packing party here,
Mhm.
I had not ever put my hands on that many products.
Yeah.
It's like certainly I had handled them before, but not that many.
Mhm.
And so it does it desensitizes you in a lot of ways too. It's like, oh, they're just, little plastic sleeves of things or, and
Yeah.
it's not all that interesting even sort of. It's just like,
Yes.
it's like, it'd be like, handing toilet paper rolls down to
which
each
is
other.
so
Yeah.
funny. I mean, toilet paper is way grosser
Yeah.
than what you do with it. Way worse than menstrual products.
Yeah.
So if anybody's gonna,
Yeah. One thing that I love that you've done is, across the state, you have, and even nationwide, you have celebrated people who are doing this well. It's not been about your organization. I know that I've seen photos on your Instagram from the UNO bathroom and places like that that are just already doing this.
Mhm.
And so that's such a great branding move for anybody who's doing any kind of business or nonprofit. Just celebrating the issue, celebrating the problem that you're solving. There's a copywriter that I follow, and she'll snap any good copy that she ever finds
Mhm.
and shares it because it just reminds people of the effect of doing the right thing.
Yes.
And you've done really well with that.
Thank you. And, unfortunately, our world has so many problems
Yeah.
that this isn't something we want to keep going for a long time. This is
Oh,
something
yeah.
that we
Yep.
want to, figure out. This is a problem that's solvable. And I think that we can do it, but, not by having many separate organizations doing separate work that don't talk about each other or
Yeah.
acknowledge each other.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. And so you've been able to get into some places that uh, other organizations maybe haven't been able to. Again, kind of talking about the political realities of the world that we live in. There's been kind of a clarity of your problem that I think has made that possible for you. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like why is Access Period able to so easily partner with other organizations?
Yeah, I think that we just are able to define our problem and talk about how we can solve it and then say, and you can solve it.
Yeah.
And then people are really excited about that. They want to be the hero of the story, and they really are.
Yeah.
They really can be. And so we just make it easy. And, by focusing on one thing, we can just so easily now, not before, but now we can so easily talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As we go into kind of a tough economy, a lot of businesses out there are going to have slower sales cycles. They're going to have people, taking longer to close deals, and that's going to be pretty normal. So talking a little bit more broadly to our audience here, one thing you can learn from Kristin is like just staying focused on solving a singular problem will help get those deals across the line. It will help you attract an audience that goes, yes, I have that problem. Sometimes our products and our services get so kind of ambiguous and vague that we talk about like, we'll help you grow, we'll help, and or we'll help all of women's health, or we'll help all of healthcare even, and it can kind of get lost of like, okay, but who am I partnering with here? What do they value? Kind of all those things. And when you come through and you're an organization that says, here's what we value. We value that there are people who have periods, who need period products, and we want to take care of that problem. That's so clear that it makes it super easy to partner with you. And there doesn't really need to be much conversation beyond that, other than if somebody doesn't understand that it really is a problem, then you can illustrate that problem to them with facts. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, when can we start working together? And that's a lesson everybody can learn from. So that's such a great thing. And it's not to say that the organizations that are doing more broad work, are bad in any way. There are things that are certainly necessary to solve in the world. But it is to say that if you're having trouble getting across the finish line with things, being really clear about one thing that you do will help you a lot more.
Yes.
So Kristin, we want to talk just in our last few moments here about you have, you've expanded across the state. I'd love to know kind of what's next for Access Period, and then what are some challenges that you're facing that people could enter into, and some ways they could support.
Well, what's next is really focusing on this expansion and making sure that it's sustainable.
Yeah.
And so that is through getting our message across to way more people. We also are hoping in the future to move into more sustainable products. The number one question we get asked is, why don't you just give a menstrual cup to everybody? And, maybe that's a whole other podcast, but we are looking at the best way to do that and the best way to serve, the population that is using our products.
Yeah.
And the challenges that we face.
Well, can I just, just real quick on that. I love that you moved forward on a solution before having it perfect, because yes, sustainability is absolutely an issue, but the lack of access to period products is still an issue while we're figuring that out.
Yes,
and literally months go by, periods go by, while we're trying to figure it out. And so we could either say, well, we're not going to do anything about it until we have it perfect, or we can say, hey, this is a need that a solution exists for right now, and we are working on a longer term solution.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I know that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And that's advice that I would give to anyone starting something. We could have waited from the time that we met until we had this brand launch to do anything.
Yep.
But we didn't. We just did it,
Yeah.
without money and without anything, leading up to that. And that was huge. So my advice to anyone would be to just start solving the problem, just start doing the thing without, you don't need everything in place. You can just do it.
And you should hear this enough on this podcast, especially as a Storybrand agency. Focus on the problem that you solve. You will never go wrong with that. Focus on solving that problem. So you've expanded. I know you've had some large partners, and I imagine there's probably a little fear there of, okay, there's there's budgets and there's Medicaid and there's all sorts of things that kind of wrap into continuing the expansion. What can normal people who don't make the laws around all that kind of stuff do, or make budgets for major corporations do? How can they help?
Well, you can help by spreading the word. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Every post that you share really makes a big difference, because that's going to reach someone that probably has never thought about this.
Yeah. Yep.
And donations are, of course, the most helpful thing.
And when you're talking donations, what kinds of donations can they make?
So you can go to our website, accessperiod.com. You can donate money. If you want to become a monthly donor, that is very, very helpful. periods come every month. They don't stop, and neither will we. So you can donate that way. That also allows us to buy in bulk. We can serve, double the people if we're able to buy those products. And you can also host a drive. We already talked about Hightower Rough, but they just did a big drive, raised 22,000 period products.
Wow.
So that is going to serve a ton of people and make a really big difference. And it's so fun.
That's another 10% of, because you said about 250,000, right? And so just one organization did another 22,000 products. That's incredible.
Yes.
You can have that kind of impact on an organization. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I will say too, that's enlightening for me, even just to think of the ability to buy in bulk. And it's very similar to food pantries, where a lot of times a cash donation is more powerful because of the partnerships they have with grocery stores and distributors. So that's good. But also though, the packing parties and the drives are really great opportunities to get involved.
Yes.
How do packing parties, other than just the donation of the goods, how do those impact the organization?
So those have been really special because we are able to make the products, right? We're putting together the products that we distribute. But also when we travel typically on site to wherever we're going. So if we had a packing party, we did at Fruitful Design, we bring everything, we talk about what we're going to do and what problem we're solving. And then we put together these 3-month kits. And so during that time, people who wouldn't come to us by going to them, we are able to then, hopefully win them over, and hopefully they understand.
Yeah. This is a brilliant thing. Again, anybody who's thinking about expanding their nonprofit or even their business, of exactly that. How can we go to people? How can we go provide value for them in that experience? And, one thing that was impactful for me was the handwritten notes that go in every packet that you give out. Because it connects you with the person who's going to receive it in this way. And if you can kind of imagine being in need of anything and not only getting the thing. And one thing that I loved was that these are all, the normal brands of things that you would see in the store. It's not the sort of government cheese equivalent,
Right.
And so it's like they're getting the high quality products in a package that's well designed, and they're getting a note saying that somebody cares about them. How impactful that must be for that person, but also how impactful it is for the people who are packing those products to just feel connected, because this is a largely unseen problem. Women and people who menstruate just go missing from our lives, and we often don't know that it's happening. And then they come back a few days later and it's like, oh, okay, wasn't feeling well or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, those packing parties are really impactful, and it's a great way to get your organization started on caring about this issue. It's so great that this issue is, it's not political. It's just a need. It's so similar to the food bank. It's so similar to other really simple, just there's a need and I want to help solve this problem. And we don't have to worry about, starting any arguments.
Right.
So, and that's a welcome relief in today's world.
Yes.
So, where can they find you? How can they both follow and support?
Yeah, we're on Instagram at accessperiod and accessperiod.com.
That's great.
And I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say, I think if we hadn't been working with you for that first 6 months of our existence, there would have been many, many times when I would have quit. And I would have just said, actually, this is too hard. Now I see why nobody's, done something like this, because this doesn't make sense and this is too hard and this isn't going to work. And because we had that relationship, and because I was so grateful to be able to work with you, I wasn't going to quit on you. And so, and this is before I knew the people that we were serving, really. And so I just want to thank you so much for your partnership there. sure. We wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
For that.
We look forward to your continued success and for helping people get access to the products they need.
Thank you so much, Raj.
Thanks for joining us today on Growing a Fruitful Brand. If you found today's show helpful, don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might also enjoy it. If you'd like to work with Fruitful on a branding, website, or messaging project of your own, you can always reach out on our website, fruitful.design. So until next time, don't forget to grow something good.